Hey there, my name is Nin and this is my Celeste movement guide. It's going to cover a lot of basic fundamentals for deadlock movement alongside some stuff that only Celeste can do, or just things that she can do much quicker or easier than other members of the cast. If you are completely new to deadlock movement or just a Celeste, this video is definitely for you. If you're already familiar, then this video might bring up a few things you weren't aware of or haven't yet seen, so feel free to stick around. But I'd recommend checking out Leaf's channel if you want to go more in depth. That will be linked in the description. Starting off, let's talk about what makes Celeste a better character for movement than any of the other characters in the game. Celeste has a hidden passive that alters how she moves whilst in the air. According to the Deadlock wiki, at time of recording, the numbers are minus 20% gravity scale, plus 50% air control, and plus 18% air acceleration. These numbers are subject to change as the game still isn't out, so I'll edit the top comment with any changes to these numbers or movement text. The reason these numbers matter is that they allow Celeste to pull off aerial movement with a lot more ease than other members of the cast. She is also able to generally go faster with this movement due to an increase in acceleration and air control, allowing her to strafe further and faster. Speaking of, let's actually talk about some movement now. Before we start, I want you guys to head into the Explore game mode. Press F7 and type SV_cheats true, then type CL_showpause1. This will allow you to see your velocity, making it easy to know if you're actually hitting these movement tags. It can also help you with finding out where you're going wrong and what's causing you to lose velocity. If you can, I would advise recording your screen if you're struggling, because you can then focus on trying the movement and watch it back to see what's going wrong. I am assuming that you're all aware of the very basic movement fundamentals in Deadlock, such as double jumps, sliding, dashing, and dash jumps, as these are all things that the game teaches to you in its own tutorial. If you're not familiar with these things, then go and play the game's tutorial. I am going to quickly mention that dash jumps work by setting your velocity to a specific speed, so generally shouldn't be used to maintain high velocity when already moving at high speeds, unless you would otherwise lose that velocity. This is something you'll get a feel for as you play, so don't worry if that doesn't make major sense to you right now. You'll understand more about it later. On top of this, you cannot jump if you use just a dash to start your slide. This is knowledge that will also come in handy later. With that said, we're going to start off with the basics of Aistrafing and how we can then use that for other pieces of movement, as Aistrafing is the basis of basically all movement related stuff in Deadlock. In order to airstrafe in Deadlock, you need to first be in the air and moving in a direction. The easiest way to practice this is on the vents. To airstrafe, you let go of any directional keys you were holding and start holding the directional key that you want to move towards, either left or right. You then slowly move your camera in the matching direction. There are some examples on the screen now of what happens when you take a vent without strafing, what happens when you take a vent with just pressing the directional key, and what happens when you take a vent and strafe properly. You can see that there is a varying difference in where you end up, and strafing properly allows you to get the most distance. I'd recommend starting practice with this on the vents, as you can get it down quite quickly due to having a lot of time in the air and a lot of momentum. You can also try using the zip lines if you prefer. You can technically airstrafe at any point when you're in the air, but normally it won't do very much unless you have momentum. This is one of the reasons why Celeste is one of the better characters for movement in the game, because it's relatively easy to gain momentum in the air on Celeste. Airstrafing is used for a whole bunch of different things, dismounting ziplines, taking vents, BHopping, so it really is the first thing you need to get down. Take a second to practice that, and then pop back to this video. Next, let's talk about BHopping. BHopping is something that has existed in most Valve games due to the original Source engine being based on the Quake engine. However, BHopping itself works a little differently in Deadlock. The main difference is that in Deadlock you cannot hold W whilst BHopping, or at least I strongly advise against it unless you know exactly what it is that you're doing. BHopping works by jumping just as you would hit the ground to try to conserve as much of your air momentum as possible. If you don't air strafe, then you won't conserve this momentum, nor will you gain any more, so that's where the strafing comes in. In order to do this, you're going to want to jump and strafe to one side. Then, as you hit the ground, press jump again and strafe in the opposing direction. You don't have to switch direction with every single strafe. The reason people tend to is that it allows you to move in as close to a straight line as possible. If you're having trouble with this, then take a look at the keys I'm pressing in the clips playing in the background, and try to replicate those presses yourself. This can take a little bit of time to get down, but once you do, it brings together every other piece of text showed in this video, so take some time to practice it. You can also do this with double jumps, especially if you need height or something like that, but generally, you do not want to double jump most of the time, as BHopping or slide hopping conserves stamina if you don't double jump. I would recommend once you have this down that you do add in some slides. For these slides, you want to let go of all directional keys and slide for a short period. jumping again just before the momentum decay kicks in, which is around 0.75 seconds but can go up with items that increase slide distance. The reason for this is that it allows you to keep your momentum and is generally more consistent than BHopping. This is what you do on basically every other character in the game, because Celeste is the only character that can really make good use of BHopping due to her passive. Without the passive, BHopping is generally too difficult and too inconsistent to be worth doing over slide hopping, which is where you BHop every now and again, but mostly jump between slides as it's more consistent. You should be sliding down slopes whilst BHopping anyways, as you'll generally gain more momentum, but adding in these little slides can help to keep your momentum going over longer periods. Keep in mind that if you slide for less than 0.5 seconds before jumping again, you will incur a speed penalty, so try to aim for 0.6 to 0.7 seconds of sliding with each slide you add. This isn't a problem if you're going downhill, as slide decay won't kick in until you are no longer gaining momentum from the slope. Next up, let's talk about Mantle Gliding. Mantle Gliding is when you hold crouch whilst mantling. It is an intentional movement tech that allows you to have a burst of speed out of a mantle. It's super nice for starting or continuing your movement out of a climb. It's exceedingly easy to do, just press crouch just before or as you mantle something and you'll come out in a slide that you can jump out of. From a mantle glide, you can also perform a super glide. This is when you perform a grounded jump directly out of a mantle glide. You first mantle like you're about to perform a mantle glide, but as soon as you are able to, you jump. This will carry out the mantle glide's momentum in the air and is a nice boost of speed for free as it doesn't cost any stamina. If close to a wall, you can also do this with a wall jump. Speaking of wall jumps, let's talk about those. You may be wondering why I didn't mention wall jumps alongside dashes, slides, and dash jumps at the start of the video, as most players are already aware of the existence of wall jumps. This is because wall jumping has a few different pieces of tech associated with it that make gaining speed and traversing the map much quicker and easier. The two types of wall jumps I want to talk about are corner boosts and edge boosts. Corner boosting is the more difficult of the two and is useful for getting height. What it's doing is turning a wall bounce's horizontal momentum into vertical momentum due to the properties of certain angles on some surfaces around the map. The easiest place to practice this tech is on the river on these grey fences. For this tutorial, we're going to be going over the light melee mantle method, as it is the easiest method to get down. But know that there are other surfaces in the game that you can do this from and that you don't need to mantle before hitting a corner boost. You just need to hit the object at the right angle and jump at the right time. If you want more info on other methods of corner boosting, check the Deadlock movement wiki, which is linked in the description. To do this, walk straight up one of the little grey fences and light melee, then hold your mantle key. If executed correctly, you should float up the fence during the light melee animation. You want to let go of W whilst mantling, and then wait a little bit before inputting a jump. The timing can be a bit tricky, so this may take you a while to get down, but on a successful input you should fly up into the sky and it will play a unique sound. This tech can be useful for getting height from a standstill, but can also be used whilst moving if you manage to hit the right angle during your movement. The other tech related to wall jumps is edge boosting. This is much more simple, simply requiring a wall that comes to an end. As you move along this wall, you want to press space at the last possible moment that would result in a wall jump. If executed correctly, you will gain forward momentum from the wall jump rather than sideways momentum. Both of these techniques can come in super handy in a pinch, so are well worth knowing. I'd also like to mention that you can practice corner boosting on these banisters in the hideout whilst you're waiting to queue into a game. Instant air dashes. Instant air dashing is the act of jumping and then instantly dashing. Without stamina mastery, this is slower than just dashing normally, but once you get stamina mastery, it becomes considerably faster. It also only costs 1 stamina, so it's a nice way to start off your movement in a very cheap way. It may take a little bit of practice before you're able to get this movement tag down, but once you do and have stamina mastery, it's very quick and is well worth knowing. Parrying. You may be wondering why I'm about to talk about parrying in a movement guide, as whilst you parry, you're stood still. However, there is one exception to this. You can parry whilst you're in the air. Generally, it will probably result in a loss of momentum, but you can use this to move towards targets that are meleeing something else at a distance from you, allowing you to get a sneaky parry in. You can also use this with counterspell if you're being targeted by stuff while you're in the air. Items. I'm going to quickly talk about a couple of items, but just know items change quite a lot in this game due to the state that it's currently in, so all of the information in this category may not still be the same at the time you're viewing this video. Check the top pinned comment to see if any of these things have changed. Stamina Mastery. This item not only grants you extra stamina, but it also lets you double jump and dash more times in the air than is normally possible. It also makes instant air dashing faster than most other ways of moving. Majestic Leap. This item gives you 100% air control, similar to a holiday bounce pad. It's fun and useful on a lot of characters, but I've yet to find a use for it on Celeste specifically. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try it out though. Warpstone. I adore Warpstone, and I have a whole video on it and why it's super fun to use on Celeste that I will link below alongside my Warpstone centric build. If you would like to use my build, I would recommend watching the video first. Move buff. The movement buff scales throughout the game and gives some pretty crazy buffs. The movement buff starts the game giving you +2 stamina, +1.5 sprint speed, +20% stamina regen rate, and +40% zipline boost. It ends with +4 stamina, +4 sprint speed, +50% stamina regen, and 80% zipline boost. These are all pretty useful stats on basically any character, and Celeste is no exception. As a quick little bonus as we end the video here, I want to talk about ult gliding. Ult gliding is no longer possible as it was patched pretty quickly after it was discovered, but for a solid day or so when the slow fall was introduced to Celeste's ult, it was possible to glide across the map with it like this. Thanks for watching this quick guide, and make sure to check the pinned comment as I'll be updating it with any changes from stuff mentioned in this video. If you're having any trouble at all with movement, make sure to join Deadlock's official Discord server, which you can get an invite to from your client, and head to the Celeste channel. Myself and a few other people in there will be willing to help you. You could also head to the movement channel that's in this server as well. On top of this, I'd recommend checking out the Deadlock movement wiki and Leaf's channel, as they both have some amazing resources on not only the texts that are covered in this video, but a bunch more that other people have discovered within the community. Thanks for watching, and I hope your games go well.